Alright, so far we've covered the general syntax of what the words, numbers, and symbols mean. We've looked at basic plotting and analysis, and we've also looked at how to format, import, and export your data. By all accounts, you're pretty much ready to go on your journey of discovery. But Rex, when I type things, I just keep getting errors. It doesn't work for me the way it works for you. I don't think I'm doing things right. Well, you'll be pleased to hear that 95% of the problems that beginners come across in R tend to be caused by the same basic issues. In this tutorial, we're going to be taking a closer look at these. That's right, we're going to be doing some troubleshooting. Welcome to the Skullywag Lab. I'm Dr. Rex. In this set of tutorials, I'm presenting a bare-bones introduction to the basic fundamentals of R coding. We're basically at the end of this short course on the basics, but before we ride off into the sunset, we're just going to take one more little look at a few of the errors that you might come across pretty early on in your R coding journey. So let's take a look. Alrighty, first things first. Is your data not importing? Does R print errors about being unable to find your data? Well, we need to make sure we always set a working directory to the folder where your data is. As I've mentioned before, I always recommend beginners store all their R scripts and data files in the same folder until they become more comfortable with the different options. But this is a step that you can't ever skip. Every time you open R, you set a working directory. Now let's move on to coding problems. Just to showcase the simplest problems, I'm again going to be using the iris data set with the same plotting code we've used in tutorial 4. As you can see, it still works a charm. Now to kick things off, one of the biggest issues beginners come across is missing parentheses. Every open bracket needs to be paired with a closed bracket somewhere in the line of code. Removing the last bracket causes a plus to appear at the end of the output. This means R is still looking for more information to include, because we haven't enclosed the function arguments within its parentheses. You can also see the issue is picked up in the script with this little red X on the left here. Hovering the cursor over this tells us we have an unmatched open bracket. So we fix the line of code by adding the missing bracket. Just as a reminder, you can use the rainbow parentheses which matches the bracket pairs by color. This helps you see where there might be one missing. Next up, you always got to remember that R is case sensitive. This means if you have an uppercase letter in a term that is not defined with that uppercase letter, then it's not going to be recognized. Or having a lowercase letter where a capital should be is the same problem. Having spaces in words also causes problems. A space is usually referred to as unexpected symbol. If you're missing commas, this breaks up the structure of the function you're working with. By the way, R also refers to missing commas as an unexpected symbol, which might be confusing at first. But if we hover the cursor over that little X on the side, it gives a bit more information about the problem. I should also point out that errors might be described differently depending on where they are in the code. So it's important to just cover your bases with all these simple little checks before looking for other explanations. Now to solve another additional problem that happens a lot, make sure that multiple characters are listed within the concatenate or combine function. This can be confusing for beginners because a single character doesn't need this feature, but any more than one character isn't recognized without it. As a final point about the coding, always remember that you can look up function descriptions at any time. At the bottom of most of these descriptions, you can find sections of code that use the function. And this just helps to double check that everything's formatted right. Looking a bit further into this, let's look at the description for the LM function. This includes the standard function format, definitions of all arguments possible within the function, details of how it works, and an explanation of all outputs given for the function. Some references as well, and the sample code to practice with. So there's some really good resources there. Okay, so if you've got the directory sorted and all the coding looks fine, next it's time to look at how your data's formatted. Remember from tutorial 5, there's a few things to watch out for here. Firstly, one column per variable. Secondly, no spaces in any names. Actually, no spaces in any cells at all, for any matter, period. Thirdly, capital letters are okay, but it's easier not to use them unless absolutely necessary. Otherwise, you have to keep checking this in your code all the time, and that gets annoying. Now, if your code seems good and the data looks fine, the next step is to make sure that everything's updated. This is because some updates can change the way things work in the software and can cause other problems. Updating packages is generally pretty easy. You just go to the Packages tab and click the Update button. There's options in there to update some or all of the packages you have installed. Updating R&R Studio just involves downloading and installing again from the website, just like we did in Tutorial 0. Alright, so you've sorted your working directory. You've looked over your code and everything's fine. You've checked your data formatting and everything's great. You've updated all your software and your packages, and there's still problems. At this point, we need to do some searching for some answers. We go check out some forums. There's a few of these around. For example, Stack Overflow offers tons of solutions to tons of problems. Another one is Code Academy. I found this pretty funny example here where the answer to the problem was a simple case of getting the code right to load some packages. So it happens to the best of us. Here's a summary sheet that addresses the vast majority of problems that beginners have with R coding. If all of these have been covered and you're still having issues, maybe by then it's worth reaching out to somebody with a bit more experience. But even then, it's often a pretty simple fix. But never fear, making mistakes is part of the learning process, and you'll be able to pass on this new knowledge that you've gained from these mistakes to the next generation of coding legends. And the cycle will continue. The end. Alright, well done. You've made it through this set of tutorials. I'm so proud of you. Now you go forth and multiply, or divide, or do some more complex computation. You got this. If you found this content helpful at all, remember to like and subscribe, and stay tuned for some more advanced coding tutorials in the future. Until then, happy coding!